If you've ever wondered about your past lives and how they affected this life, or how to access the Akashic Records, today we will do that and learn how to benefit from the experiences our souls have had along the journey. We are here today with the expert, Adora Winquist, who is a modern day alchemist. She is an international author, bestseller, healer, and just has decades of experience. We're very excited to be talking with her.
She's also our friend.
A dear friend.
And so we are here on the Balance Your Life podcast, our Evolving Consciousness. I'm Deb Peterson.
I'm Deb Valente.
And we're with Adora Winquist, Soul now, right? Adora Soul.
Yes.
Recently got
Yes.
married. Thanks for being with us.
Oh, it's such a joy, of course, to see you. I'd love to be able to hug you in person, but here we are, moving through time and space.
That's right.
Yeah, wonderful to be here. And
Yes.
yes, my new last name is Soul, and it's, I think, rather cosmically humorous that now I'm Adora Soul, founder of the Soul Institute.
I know, I
Right?
love
I think
that.
that's great.
That's great. So yeah, tell us a little bit about, tell everybody about your background a little bit and what the Soul Institute is and how you do, your quantum healing. And then we'll get into the nitty gritty of
The record, sure. Well, my journey as a healer and writer and teacher, spiritual teacher, has now spanned, I guess, about 3 decades, which is so funny because you don't realize when you're young how quickly life goes by. So it seems like in many ways it was just yesterday, and then at the same time it feels like it's been lifetimes in this one life.
Well, probably has.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And we'll actually talk more about that when we dive into the records. But my journey started when I was young, and the place that called me was nature. I spent most of my childhood outside because it was solace, it was safety, it was a place that made sense. And listening to the trees and flowers and stones and elements was greatly comforting. And I grew up in upstate New York. And then when I was 18, I went out to California and had my first experience there with a local native shaman for the autumn equinox. And it was like a door opened inside of me. And this memory of connecting with the sacred medicine of the earth and spirit and how much potential there is within us really ignited this lifelong journey, which is really a quest. And I really do believe that our lives, for those of us that are longing to be more greatly awake, right, and connected and able to access that holy power that is held within our souls, to connect with the voice of truth and wisdom that is within us. Well, there are many different pathways to this, and the alchemy of nature is very powerful. And there are elements of our youth that will always indicate, like what I like to say, are marker moments along the way, connecting the past to the present.
And I was going to interrupt. You did a lot of work with creating aromatherapy that catches these essence, and they're very, very powerful. Your products have always been very, very powerful, and the work that you do with infusing and raising people's vibration is incredible.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been like 3 decades of blending and blessing aromatics because they hold frequency. They are able to open at the molecular level to receive the frequencies of the consciousness of the universe, right? And those pristine, pure points of connection to awaken our own consciousness, to bring healing and clearing and transformation within. So, it's been part of my own medicine, because the oils for me came at a time where I was deeply sick. And, as a teenager, and I was sick from many different reasons, but with bronchitis yearly. And I didn't have insurance, and I didn't have a lot of money. And that's where I really started to dive into the plants and their medicine and found like, wow, there's a whole universe here.
Right.
That was so exciting to me. And it has become a lifelong, not just quest or exploration, but a way of building business. And through that, being able to connect with people all around the world and to know that these little bottles of oils that I've made now have sold millions.
Yeah,
You
it's
know,
amazing.
Adora, I have to say,
Different parts
it's
of the
really
planet.
interesting because not too long ago, people were attracted to the oils, the essential oils for the smell, and maybe not even understanding, and it made them feel better. But now, everybody is so much more aware of consciousness and an energy, and it's the name of our podcast, right? But
Love
connecting
it.
to one consciousness and now using those oils to raise their vibration. So it's
Yeah.
incredible how people are becoming more aware of things that they were attracted to, and now for where they where they want to improve or they want to evolve to.
Well, I think this is such a demonstration of this exciting time that it is to be here alive, right? As the consciousness of our planet and humanity evolves.
Right.
And that the oils are just incredibly potent, the most potent form of plant medicine, in the way that I see it, a quantum medicine for us, because they are both alchemical and biochemical in nature, just like we are. Right. So they are able to mediate between our subconscious and the specific systems of our brain, like the amygdala and limbic system that holds so much memory and emotion. So when we use them, we can create new memory cells. We can weed out the secret and sacred garden of our subconscious. And in doing so in specific and habitual ways, specifically through one of the modalities I created, aromatic neuro repatterning, that we can literally reshape the neural pathways for a more benevolent, harmonious experience of life every day. Not just like when you're meditating, not just when you go to a retreat, or not just when you think like, oh, I can do something for me for self-care. No, something that you can use in the moment in a practical way to drive the needle of transformation in your daily lives. So you are living a life that is thriving holistically and no longer stuck in these patterns of survival through different aspects of your life, whether it's relationship or health or money.
So you're using
clarity.
You use the aromatherapy therapy and what you create in all of your modalities, right? And whatever you're working with people or
Yes, I use it in my healing practice. I use it in a system that I created called Modern Alchemy, which is an innovative system of spiritual awakening, personal growth that is designed ultimately to connect you with your path of purpose. And in Modern Alchemy, we have 5 main pillars that we work with, practical experiences, either in meditation, solfeggio frequency, in visualization, in blending things. And when you do this through the 5 spots, a really sustainable level of transformation. Which is what we need, right? We don't need like, oh, let me just have that experience when I'm in a session, when I'm receiving a healing, or when I think I deserve it. No, your birthright is a life of plenty in every way, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, not later in life, not at the end, or not in another lifetime, but right here and right now.
Right.
so it's crazy because I always, as long as I've known you, and it's been a while, I've always referred to you as a modern day alchemist. That my friend, the modern day alchemist. But
Right.
it's so there's so many people now who are going past that step of I'm going for a healing and I'm going to feel better, and it's really about changing and living life. So just what you're talking about, carrying it forward, implementing it, and life, and always,
Well, I think that this is really part of our potential right now, is that, every human soul has the ability to not just change, but to quantum leap along their own unique path of mastery. And as you connect the dots from your past patterns, right, our past experience to what's happening each and every day. And you start to say, oh, wow, this really makes so much more sense. Well, now that I comprehend that at some level, I can let it go. It's like this deep process of soul level reconciliation.
Yeah.
I'm glad you went there because we really want to take this and talk about the Akashic Records, and we want to talk about the Akash, the past lifetimes, what you can tap into, and just what you said, learning from or bringing those experiences here. I have my thoughts on where we are now and where what we're able to utilize, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, how you work with that. Yeah.
Well, I also want to say that in this moment, right, where here we are, the three of us, it's a triad. We're kind of in this triangle, which is a very sacred geometric formation of manifestation. So let's just take a moment together and take a breath. Now, you might not have any oils with you, but I do. And I'm going to just breathe one in to open this space, to open my field, and to align for the most benevolent outcome of this wisdom to come through. Because I believe that the overarching opportunity and potential for us as humanity is to not only heal, not only transform, not only thrive, but to create benevolent generational legacy, so that our children, right, the next stewards of this earth and generations to come, will be able to truly live a life of freedom and sovereignty, to find their fulfillment that comes not from just the shiny baubles of life, right, like the Lamborghinis, which those are nice too and grand, but the depth of fulfillment that can come when you are living your soul's calling and truth. And I think this is where the records come in as a master key. So if you have an intention that you don't have to say it out loud, but you can just invite it into this space. One of the things I did before we got on was to set the sacred space, because in terms of the Akashic Records, it's really important, just like it is important in your everyday life, to call in the support from the higher realms, from those spiritual forces of benevolence that surround us in every moment. But because we have free will, we have to ask for their help.
Yeah.
So maybe to start with, what are the Akashic Records? Because so many people today are like, oh, I've heard about this, or oh, I went to a class this weekend and I learned how to master reading the Akashic Records. And, it's really become more of a mainstream curiosity and interest.
Yeah.
Which always tells us that the tipping point of consciousness of humanity is evolving and opening to receive some of these more esoteric philosophies.
Yeah, we wouldn't have been talking about this 10 years ago, that's for sure.
And if we were,
well,
we would be talking about it differently. We'd be talking, I think our understanding now of what the Akashic is, and how our soul, how we can access it, and what we bring forward from different lifetimes and mastery is very different than even what we understood 10 years ago.
Right.
It is so true. And let me just frame the context to say that the Akashic Records, for those of your viewers or listeners that haven't heard of this, is an etheric vibrational compendium, like an enormous book of life, but for each and every human soul's journey through time. So every human soul has records that are held in this etheric and vibrational library, if you will. Now, some people refer to it as the Hall of Records, so you might have also heard this term. And that's how I heard of it some 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, and for me, my experience, although I had read about it, and I'd had these glimpses that came to me in my work as a healer. It wasn't until my first trip to Egypt, and I was standing at the Great Pyramid and by the Sphinx. And I started to feel this vibrational frequency and then see these pathways under the Sphinx.
Oh, cool.
And I realized, like, oh, this is the Hall of Records, right? This is a pathway.
Ah,
And from that, and because of my own background, past life experience in Egypt, in one or facet, or at least one facet, Egypt for me holds a lot of memory and keys. So I took a couple of journeys there. And one of them was really quite profound in terms of memory coming back. It was with the Rosicrucian organization, I don't know, 20 some years ago. And the entire pyramid was closed except for our group. And it was the spring equinox and the full moon. And we got to hang out in the Queen's chamber by candlelight in meditation,
ooh, that's wonderful.
otherwise darkness, which was part of an old initiation, ancient initiation in the Great Pyramid.
When you were in that ceremony, did that initiation feel familiar? Did it take you right back?
Yes,
Yeah.
it really did. And in fact, it came back with such intensity. We started in the Queen's chamber and then went to the King's chamber with toning, right? And that's where the great sarcophagus is,
Yeah.
of initiation, of transformation, of rebirth in many ways. And when I came out, I just was like streaming tears because I remembered. And the depth of memory held so much emotion, so much longing. And one of the women that was the organizer for this, a different company, said, this is where I remember you from. You were a priestess here in initiation. And we went on to talk. And so then the amplification of the memory became even stronger. And I recall walking away and then being shown certain sigils and processes for connecting with higher level frequencies, energies of the great central sun, for connecting and activating the third eye area for more insight and memory. And like that was like just a snippet of that journey. And what this really to me says as a message more universally is that this wisdom, this insight, this memory is held within everyone. And when you have perhaps a sense like, oh, I just have this like faintest hint of memory about something, or this feels familiar, but I can't put my finger on it.
Right, that deja vu.
Well, oftentimes, yeah, like a deja vu. Oftentimes it's an echo, right, of a different experience that your soul has already held. Because we often think that our subconscious mind is only carrying the memory from the moment of conception to date, right? Physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. But the truth is, our subconscious is cued in, our body consciousness is cued into so much more than that. And these experiences that you've had in your soul's journey through time are still carried within you, particularly when they hold a misconception, when they hold a experience of the past, energetically, emotionally, for sure, that has been traumatic or that became something very difficult, too much to take in and assimilate. Well, that information is still held within you, and I call these are like the fragments of your soul's light that have been frozen or calcified through these experiences in different lifetimes.
And these are challenges that people will come up to in this lifetime and have an adverse reaction to for sometimes no reason that they can put their finger on. I mean, as a young person, I was horrified of going to the doctor. I still can walk in, have a conversation, walk outside and pass out because it's just extremely overwhelming to me. that's
Can't
not
build the
this
emergency
lifetime.
room.
This is accumulated stuff, and it
Yeah.
doesn't make sense. And we have it, right? So it comes up in this lifetime.
Right.
It comes up.
And then you want to release that.
And
Yeah, you do.
it often inhibits us from living and loving fully and freely, right? Because at the level of your soul, you came into this life with a blueprint that you co-created with your divine teams of light to say, okay, for my soul's evolutionary process, I want to reconcile this misconception. I want to unlock the truth, the divine frequency that has been held in this experience for me in the past. So let me see, let me find the best set of parents to co-create the conditions to activate this as I come through the veil of profound forgetting and come into life here, right? Birthed on earth. And this is why we see that our early childhood treasure map, as I like to call it, from about conception to about 10 years old, when we really start to look at the nuance of dynamics with our parents, our family of origin, and see where those challenges, right, those traumatic experiences held, well, that's where the pattern became imprinted in this life. And the good news for, those people that are tuning into this that maybe think, okay, this is really interesting. I don't know if I'm ready to like go into the whole past life thing, but you can go into your own early childhood treasure map because the threads are all connected there. You can follow them, of course, to the roots through different experiences through time, but it's all still held in your childhood. So ultimately, whether or not you believe in reincarnation and the past life perspective, or if you're more based in the idea of the science and quantum physics, that there are different multiple realities that are happening simultaneously, it either way, it all meets right here in this moment.
It does, because
Right?
this is
So
this, it's
everything meets
only
right
this
here.
moment.
This is the moment that you, and this only is through this moment, this present moment, that you can open the doorway and begin to understand and transmute and sculpt the experiences of the past so you can create a new future for yourself.
Adora, I just I want to interrupt you 1 second. I want to stop you because this is it's incredible work that you're doing along those lines, and working with people to clear that and to transmute um whatever limitations or challenges or energy, and bring it forward. However, I just want to point out, and I think this is something that isn't talked about enough. Um, Whether it is quantum or whether you're looking into past lives, there are the soul has had experiences that it has benefited from, and during that
Yes.
time has positive attributes that come forward into this life that we can tap into. So
Absolutely.
someone who is a natural musician, or if you know whatever your gift is, those are things
Or
that can
gifts or
what
different,
gifts,
yeah.
right, that can be tapped into um and utilized.
Mhm.
And I think that so it's both, right? It's letting go, but it's also
Yes.
recognizing what the soul has already learned.
This is such a great point. And the truth is this is a both and universe. It's not but. The but is the limitation of the mind from
Yeah.
the past. So when we actually start to go into the records, and when I'm working with an individual or in a group setting, which I do sometimes on the retreats, like in France in the ancient Druid forest, which is amazing, we start to see that there are connections between the experiences and the belief systems that were formed, right? Because it's the belief system that has the distortion, that has the misconception, whether it's about life or love or money or God, what have you, that is what is carried through. And often what we see are there are points of connection between that which you came into this life through your soul's journey to say, yes, I want to clear this, to awaken this, to unlock this, to activate this, to remember this. Well, we also see the connection between your ancestral lineage and your bloodlines. And see, this is really important because we tend to forget this, that the belief systems and the patterns of thinking, of feeling, of acting around every expression of life often are not our own, the places of limitation. And sometimes even the gifts. Many of these have come through the bloodlines, like a passing of the baton to say, okay, I couldn't quite get this one, resolved. Here you go. Now, the other benefit of this is that those gifts, right? And we even see, and I love that you mentioned the instruments, whether it's art, whether it is music, whether it is writing, there is often a connection to these deeper levels of the soul's gifts and attributes that come through this process that are also held through your ancestral lineage when you go back one or two or three or more generations. Now, the powerful thing is that as you clear the patterns, like if you're, imagine you're peeling away the patterns of the past, the illusions or the emotions that no longer serve you, well, that happens not just through the mind or the emotions, but also through the body and the cells, which connect to your bloodlines through your DNA. So you have more space for your gifts to come through. Oftentimes people after, and I don't really call them a reading because it's so much more than that. And I'll talk about that for a second. But oftentimes people will find like, oh my gosh, I never had this gift before. Like for me, people used to always kind of, when I was young, oh my gosh, you can't really sing. You're like so tone deaf. And my mom was like, oh, you got that for me. I sound like a frog when I sing. And one of the things that in my journey is one day these calls to the angels just came through, tones, and in a way that I thought, whose voice is that? There's no way that can be mine. But this is what happens.
Beautiful. Yeah.
So I wanted to come back, Deana, to what you said about the doctor, because this is another piece that people always have questions on. And when someone comes to me for a session, I say, well, bring like 3 patterns or 3 questions that you have. If you don't know your patterns that you want to clear or understand more of, then bring 3 things that you are longing for, or, maybe you're curious about. And so there was one individual that he came to me and he actually had a very high level military background. And one of the elements that came through his reading was of a plane crash. And so suddenly in the session, he said, oh my goodness, it makes so much sense because my whole life, I've never wanted to be on a plane. I've hated flying, had to do it a lot, didn't have a choice, but really had to kind of grin and bear it. Yes. So this is a natural place that people hold the fears and anxieties that tend to be rooted in past experience.
Mm-hmm. I also read, like just a little bit different subject, but that you can, I tell Deana about this, that I was reading about mining the Akash.
Right. And
that is going back to
bringing forward the positive.
Yeah, from a past life.
From a past life. Because
just kind of going into it and saying, I want that life where, I don't know, I was very wealthy, for example. Or,
yes.
We're very healthy if you're ill or whatever. And you can go in and say, I would like to take that forward now, that piece of it.
This is such a brilliant point, and I want to address this from a couple of different perspectives. And the first one actually is to come back to this idea of your quest. And in the system that I created of modern alchemy, where people become modern alchemists through a year-long journey,
Mhm.
One of the things that I love to say is that this is the greatest quest, greatest adventure of your lifetime, because in it, through it, you're going to come to understand that you are the seeker, right? But you're also the map and the treasure. So your journey is this quest to mine the gold that you already are, you've just forgotten.
Right.
So when you think about the records, often what happens is, you know, you might say, well, okay, I can remember this life where I was very, very wealthy. This one, I'm not so much. And it's easy to say, I want to go back, I want to make the point of connection, and I want to receive the money. Well, that's a wonderful intention, but it also can be either singular or missing the essence of why you're challenged right now with money in your current life, because you're the one that set it up this way. So, what is it that you came here to understand, to reconcile,
Well,
right? What
even if
is
you
it? And
remember. Okay.
go ahead.
Sorry, I was just gonna say, even if you can't remember a past life,
You
but
don't have to remember.
yeah, just to get into, okay.
Yeah,
So,
people all want to know their past life and they want to know the story, but
Yeah, but
but
you don't
it's not,
have
it's
to.
not.
Right.
The essence is, where are your strengths? Where the masters in this lifetime and in past and in
Mm,
different generations have tapped into those gifts and those achievements and that expansion that they have made in past lifetimes,
mhm,
and then they come forth here and they're right back. I was a shaman, but I have this and I
mhm.
work with it, and you allow it in. Right, so you don't have to
Right. So
remember the
how do you allow?
story,
No, that's my
but
point.
yeah,
What
yeah.
I'm saying, like, how
well,
you know.
so this is where we have a little bit more nuance to it, because first you want to understand why you set up this life to forget about that gift or to be in a state of lack in some regard, whether it's money or love or health or the perfection of your desired self-expression. So this is where we come invitationally into the Akashic Records to bring understanding, connecting the dots of the past to the present to go, oh, wow, I understand now. And through this process of understanding, then we can unwind, right, the calcified energy from the soul to the cells. And this is why it's so important, because in that way, then what are you doing? Well, you're creating a pathway through time and space for the restoration of your soul's blueprint, your divine seed blueprint, where that flow of money then will come back in, because you can now be in right relationship with your soul and through all that is. Now, another element of this is that many of us, and this kind of is connected, like we have these latent gifts of soul mastery that will often be just sleeping until a certain marker moment in life where certain experiences that we lined up, right, happen that bring us to a point of deeper understanding. Sometimes this is through what seems like great adversity, right? But this is part of and has been part of the journey on this planet for millions of years, right? Through the density that is present here.
Mhm.
So, so as we're moving through an individual's records, and I say we because it's co-creative. And when I'm working with someone, it isn't just a reading, because as you know, people come and say, "Oh, I was like so and so in a past life. I was Cleopatra. I was like,
Yeah.
I don't know,
Right.
Whatever.
whatever the dot 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 is."
Yeah.
But see, that feeds the ego, because to just be told something, how does that really serve you?
Right.
Right.
Right? So when I'm working with someone, and I'll share a story about this in a second, it is really creating the sacred space of healing where we move vibrationally with many allies and angelic beings and high level masters to hold a certain frequency for the individual to feel it or see it or hear it or understand it within themselves. So it's a very dynamic process in this way, because even to be told something about one of your past lives, okay, that may be helpful, but when you can hear it, right? You can be told it, but you can feel it somewhere in your body, whether and often emotionally or viscerally, then it becomes a profound moment in space and time that you can open. It's like finding the right key for the right lock, that you can open up this doorway, right, by transmuting the patterns of the past, releasing your divine frequency, releasing your gold, right? And so what does that mean? That means freedom. That means like the voices of the past that told you you can't do this, you're not, whatever that dot 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 may be, fall away, and you're like, oh, this is why I'm here.
Right.
This is what I'm meant to do.
I actually also read, maybe in that same book, where somebody, pretty high level that wrote, that the most important thing for everyone in the, Akash is that is the spiritual part, is the actually the how am I saying this? Like the opening up, right? That's the most important. It's everybody's part of their Akashic records. Like, we might have different things, different purposes and things like that, but that is the
Well,
main.
I
Am I saying that right?
yes, and we will
Yeah.
talk about
Did you
this
read
another
that book
time.
too?
I'm sure.
Okay.
Yes,
But
but
yeah.
our souls are here for expansion. So
Well,
regardless
right.
of
So that's
what
it.
our
Right.
purpose is, even hold on, and I'm going to throw this out there, and we will talk about this another time. This is where I've come to with my work, and that is, we are here and we're accessing and we're bringing forward and we're working through the limitations or challenges, but trying to tap into what we have achieved, right? So that vibration. But along the way, we will create other limitations in this life. We will, because as we expand,
Yeah.
there will be new challenges, right?
Mhm.
Because that's how we expand further.
Absolutely.
As humanity. So even when we get there and and we're feeling great, we're going to create other things in this lifetime, and if and it'll
And bring
just
them through
continue.
to the next one.
Yeah, just
Absolutely.
for that expansion,
Yeah.
for that curiosity, and for getting to the next place in our awareness and connection.
Right.
Yeah, I love this, ladies, because this is also another important element. I had someone that came to me and she said, Adora, I had a reading, a healing, Akashic healing from you a year or so ago. And this is what shifted. And now this is coming up. Is it possible to get another one? Like, can you get more than one in life? And I thought, oh, what a great question, because the truth is, like, imagine you're like an onion, but like that, more
Right.
like we'll say a rose, right? That has so many petals.
Okay.
It smells better.
Never hear that.
But as we transmute one level, what our consciousness rises, right? We have new experiences. We start to play this game of life differently, right? We're climbing the ladder of consciousness, and as we do that, as we evolve on our unique journey of self mastery, well, the call continues to rise too. So that means as you start to vibrate at a higher frequency, and like, oh, this is really great. I passed through this initiation, right? I'm able to do this now. I didn't wow, I didn't even know this was possible. And then suddenly the next layer comes up and you're like, oh, what, right? What's this hurdle? What is this hurdle?
Right. Well,
and so it's so important, right? Because it's another call, because the stakes in a way are higher. The call for your faith, trust, and surrender, for your great remembrance of your sovereignty, of your uniqueness, well, that expands as well.
Absolutely.
So
So
we could go on. Did
I
you have
know.
another question?
Well, I was just going to say, do you have any like tips
That's what I was.
or something like that, that you could give people just
Hmm.
that if you want to access it or work with it or,
Yeah.
I mean,
How do
they're
people get quiet and connect?
right. And how
Right.
can get the best out of,
Yes.
the most out of their,
So I'll give a couple of relatively simple ways that you can navigate through the Akashic records. And the first one, I think, and to me, this is where this work and connecting with your records to open the doors of your spiritual understanding. I think that's paramount. That's so important. And because it's not either or, and to bring that into embodiment, because that's why you're here, Deb, right? You've come for this journey as a vast spiritual being
Mhm.
into this smaller container of limitation, right? This profound forgetting, these levels of disempowerment and separation. Well, you've chosen this to remember what it means fully, viscerally in the body to master the mind, the heart, to hear the soul, and to live from that place in a way that you thrive daily. So for an individual, my question is always, are you ready to move beyond your old story, the story of this life, right? All of the things that are like that come over and again, and this is why, and da 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 da
Yeah.
da, to move into the journey of your soul, to really come to a new level of understanding, because through that is your liberation, and
Yeah.
through your liberation is your greatest fulfillment. So how can you do this at home?
Yeah.
So one of the things that, and I love this, this comes through the Rosicrucian teachings, which is a very old mystery school. It's been around since, I don't know, like 13 or 1400. Um, and you can have two white candles and sit in front of a mirror when it's dark. So if you could be in a place, if you have a place that you meditate, I always recommend this, a sanctuary space. It doesn't have to be an altar. It can be very simple, but a place where you anchor your sacred practices, where you carve out time and space for yourself, for your spiritual connection, for your mental, emotional, and physical well-being. So you can come into this, you can have a little mirror, it doesn't have to be a big one, candle on each side. And of course, I'm always going to recommend that you use an aromatic. It doesn't have to be one of mine,
Right.
certainly could be of high vibe aromatics, but a pure one to be able to help you open up, right? Because when you're inhaling, you're able to connect with the brain, but also with spirit through the body and then through the quantum field in ways that will heighten your ability to be receptive.
Okay.
You can burn a little incense if you want to. You can have a cup of soothing tea to bring your nervous system to a place of receptivity as well. Maybe some solfeggio frequency, like a 432, which is like the harmony of the spheres, the harmony of the universe. And then you would sit down and start to just invite in, like, what is your intention? What are you curious about? Because it is a fundamental universal law that when you ask, right, not from a place of your ego, when you're harnessing that holy power that is within your soul through the magnitude of love and connection that you have in your heart, to invite in infinite spirit, open the way for the fullness of my divine design, my purpose, or for the greatest clarity and vision, for the deepest understanding of where this experience I'm having is rooted in the past. And so when you do that, you can just bring your eyes kind of like not shut, but just let them come out of focus while still gazing at the mirror. So they're just, a little bit open. And often, and the more that you practice this, I don't know if either of you have done this, you may see your face begin to shapeshift. into different incarnations,
Oh, cool.
maybe even different animals.
You just read that?
She had me do something like this.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So this is one
I just wanted to
experience.
get back to you.
Yeah, and I just have your journal there. And the one thing that's so important though is being present, because this is a master key that we, all of us are either present, right? We're in presence or we're in pattern. When we're in presence, we're in this moment, this present moment. And when we're in pattern, we are engaged subconsciously in the past, right? But the gift is in the moment. The miracles are here. The potential is in the moment for you to harness.
Yes.
So to sit with this and then just journal. And this is a nice way too that you can open the space within you, because we all have gifts of high sense perception, HSP, right? It may not be clairvoyant. You may not see things, but you might hear them.
Mhm.
You might just have a sense of direct knowing. You might feel it in your body or emotionally. You might see it through the Akash, right? Which comes through the heart center. So to come into commune through the Akash, to start to explore your records, to start to understand your ancestral lineage patterns, it comes through the wisdom of your heart. So this is too, right? This is the path.
Fantastic. We have a lot more we can talk about with
Yeah,
that.
I think that we're going to get back together and we're going
Yeah.
to talk about this. And I also want to take this next time
Mm.
to talking about the veil being lifted, the new ones coming in, their remembrance of the Akash, how they
Awesome.
can work with those.
Yes.
Okay. So, and I think
Yes.
that we'll really get into that, but this was so much
Yeah.
information
Yes.
for our
So,
guests,
yes.
and it was just so fantastic. It
Yeah.
feels like
So
you're
thank
right
you.
here.
Oh,
Yes.
good.
So thanks for being with us.
Oh, I love it. Well, I'm going to make like a special little package for all of your viewers and listeners. And if they're curious either about reading more, and this book is by one of the 40 years, she was one of the most well-known readers on the planet who's no longer with us, and some other tips.
All right. Take care.
Love you.
Love you. Thank
See you next time.